This is Jabba the Pod. Right, sons, and welcome to SYFY WIRE's Jabba the Pod, our weekly Star Wars podcast where we discuss and celebrate the movies, shows, books, comics, games, and everything else from the galaxy far, far away. Every generation has a legend, every legend has a podcast, and this is ours. I am your host, disgraced former Jedi and Force Mystic Brian Silliman. Joining me are the greatest co-hosts in the galaxy, starting with former Force-sensitive Assassins Guild member, Turd Droids Rights activist Caitlin Bush.
Hello there.
And the man who lets us record on his starship, the smuggler with a not-so-secret heart of gold, captain of the Star Binger, Matt Romano.
Greetings.
And now we're trying something new for the YouTube version of this show. We're only going to give you the Clone Wars discussion, the breakdown of the new episode. Well, the most recent episode, I should say. For the full version of this podcast, this wonderful oral experience, this madness, this wonderful, delightful madness, you can find us on Apple Podcasts or also wherever you happen to get your podcasts, and you can see everything else that we talked about. But with that, we're going to go right into our Clone Wars discussion. Of course, we're going to celebrate and discuss the Kark and Criff out of this new episode. There will be some new canon coming at us, and when there is, we'll fire off our trusty cannon. If we have hot takes along the way, and things are getting pretty hot already, we will sound the hot take alarm. And if Prince Zizor shows up, we will blow our minds with this gun right here. No, just not really. If anything in this episode really blew our minds, and it did, we will let loose with a seismic mind charge. And this episode is brand new, so definitely watch it before continuing to listen to this episode or watch this episode, because there's what, Caitlin?
There is a clear order in which you should watch the Clone Wars and then listen to or watch our podcast.
The order is clear, but because we love you so much and we don't want you to be spoiled, we're going to help you out and sound, that's right, the spoiler klaxon. Go, gadget, spoiler klaxon, on my train, build the baby, strandcast it, you do it, you coward, more, Aguirre, Wrath of God. And if we're all sad, let's punch it.
Gun. The Clone War has.
You're stuck with me, Sky Guy.
The Clone Wars 7.10. Oh my god, after this, only 2 episodes left, and I can't believe it. April 24th, 2020, the new episode hit Disney Plus early this morning, and we're going to start right off with a seismic mind charge. Sound it, mind blown. At what the title of the episode. Now, we knew, we had heard, rather, the titles were for these last 4 were reported a couple weeks ago, but until I see it on the screen, I'm not going to talk about it or get excited about it, you know. But
I will say too, I intentionally did not look at what the titles were when they came out.
Yeah,
just so that I could live
smart.
It from week to week.
I forget what the last 2 were, because I looked at and I'm like, oh, this is amazing, and I'm like, now I'm doing it the Caitlin way.
You don't want to get any of that Phantom Menace Qui-Gon's funeral action.
Qui-Gon's noble end. I don't. Let's not go back there. But the title is. My mind was blown by the title, and I saw it then, but I saw it there, and then seeing the episode, it's so. My mind is blown to the point where it's so. When Sam Witwer said that the scripts were the best he'd ever read, the writing of this episode tied in thematically with the title is of a synthesis that is it's not I mean, it's an amazing show. Star Wars is this show is always well written, but this is just on another level, I really thought, because you look at this title and you immediately think Phantom Menace, obviously, so it has Star Wars history, but you immediately think, well, it's about Ahsoka, because she's an apprentice that, you know, is cast aside and now in the wind. But then you're watching it and you realize it's also applicable to Maul, who was, you know, cast off as well. And the two of them, and he tries to get her on his side because he's like, we're both cast off, you from the Jedi Council, me from Darth Sidious. So they're both Phantom Apprentices. But then as the episode goes on and Maul keeps talking, you realize that the real Phantom Apprentice this whole time has actually been Anakin.
Yeah. Thank you. I was just about to say that.
it's like, and he said he's been, and we'll get to it, when Maul says he's been bred this entire time by Darth Sidious for this, he's the Phantom Apprentice to the Phantom Menace this whole time. And so which way is this Phantom Apprentice going to go? Apprentice to who? To the Jedi, to Sidious, like to both kind of. Which way is he going to go? He's
Poor
the fulcrum.
Ahsoka.
He's the Shatterpoint. It's like and those revelations and everything and how the title applies to so many different things. It's just a stroke of damn brilliance. So again, mind blown again. Anyway, I think that's just so amazing, and it's so tying in Revenge of the Sith without going to Revenge of the Sith, even though we're there. We're right in the middle of Revenge of the Sith now.
I can't believe it.
The length, now that I've talked for about 7 hours, we're at about, we have a 27 minute episode and like 43 seconds. It's weird. Written by, of course, Dave Filoni, directed by Nathaniel Villanueva. Same classic title as last week. The Lucasfilm, so many people remarked on the old school Lucasfilm logo, and my response still is quoting Luke from Last Jedi. I'm like, that was a cheap move.
It worked though. It worked very well.
It
very
worked so well. And a lot of people are remarking that it's interesting that the whole show started with 4 episodes jammed into a movie and put in theaters, and it's ending with what feels like a movie split up into 4 parts and put on television.
Yeah. Here's the thing, too, is that I'm glad that you brought up Luke in The Last Jedi, because I feel like at the for this one and the previous episode, and I know for the next 2 episodes also, we're having these moments where I feel like Dave Filoni is doing his best Luke in The Last Jedi impersonation, where he's just going, this is not going to go the way that you think it does.
It's what did you think was going to happen here? Because so much happens in this episode that we've seen in the trailers that what's left, a lot of room for surprise. I mean,
2 episodes left.
So it and we'll get there, but it's like I came to this island to die. Also after the loss of my leg. Sorry, I don't know how Clique Lars, get out of here. So there's green. Again, and it's interesting. After that, there's the red titles again, and then no music, no fanfare at all this week. Just the lightsaber humming that you pointed out, Matt, was over the credits last week, and we're right in no narration at all. This is the first Clone Wars. Even the movie had narration. The movie didn't have a moral. This one also doesn't have a moral. A moral in the title. They have morals in the material.
Do they?
Well, in the movie, it's like make sure to have medicine for your little hut babies. I don't know. It's a famous quote. But there's no narration, so I'm going to provide it myself. Ahsoka Tano surrounded. That's not what was said, but it's almost, and it was so eerie. It was such a perfect beginning because it really it did not feel like a new episode. It felt like a continuation. Yeah. And damn, I cannot wait to see all of these in one go.
Me too.
So Maul and Ahsoka are face to face, and they're surrounded by Maldos. He says Ahsoka's name isn't really familiar. He says he imagines, though, they have mutual friends. Ahsoka sends which I'm like, ew.
Best line of the episode. We'll
like
take that out there
right now. I'm sure we both know Sylvia from the sewing circle. And she calms Rex, and Rex is on the way. Maul says, I thought Kenobi would have come himself, bringing his loyal foal Skywalker. Like,
I screamed.
Wow, loyal foal. Was that a scream moment?
I screamed.
His loyal foal.
I think it was mainly just like I didn't sleep very well last night, and then the idea of like Anakin is a foal with really long legs, just like running around after Obi-Wan.
It's like, what if Maul tried to write a John Steinbeck novel? It's like, that's what it would be. She says, Master Kenobi had a more pressing engagement, and Maul says, indeed, I wonder. And he says, the moment may be upon us. And this is a thing, like, a lot of the grand plan, the broad strokes, it's interesting that Maul knows a lot of it. He knows a lot of the broad strokes. Earlier in Brothers and Revenge in season 4, he's like, oh, so it began without me. So he knows a lot of these broad strokes, but he doesn't know everything.
Well, and he knows from the one line in Phantom Menace that he has, it's like, we'll finally have a revenge. Like, he knows revenge is coming.
And it's interesting. It's interesting. The parallels between him and Ahsoka were never as apparent to me as they were in this episode.
Same here.
That they're both kind of these dangling loose ends. There were one of them in the movies, but brought back for this show. you know, and they're really in the same position, just on opposite sides.
Absolutely.
He keeps monologuing at Ahsoka, saying that the Jedi and Republic will shortly not be in the controlling interest in the galaxy. Instead, it will be, and he drops it,
Darth Sidious.
Yep.
I was like, that's a big moment, but then they say Darth Sidious then a million more times in this episode.
Yeah, a million more times. I thought that was going to be like the one. I was like, oh no.
Yeah,
no.
It's like, and so right as he says that the clones arrive, they fire on the Maldos. There's some brief lightsaber action, and Maul runs, and he's like, not yet. Ahsoka and Rex are in pursuit, but they lose him, and then we're back in the throne room. Ahsoka, Rex, and Bo-Katan are on the comm with Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka tells him that Maul said the name. And of course, I thought of Caitlin. I'm like, she must be happy that our boy Obi-Wan's back. And I'm thinking he's in his robe. They must
with
not
his
have
robe
left.
and his little.
Yeah, they must not have flown off yet. And then Obi-Wan says he doesn't know much about Sidious, but he shares what the Council suspects, that Darth Sidious is the Sith Lord who orchestrated the Clone Wars and played both sides of it from the beginning. Dead on. That is exactly what happens. He said,
You got something right. Good job, kids.
Yeah, it's like good for you. And we know that he first learned the name Sidious. He first heard it from Count Dooku, because we see it in Attack of the Clones. Also, and then he says, there's no chance of learning more from Dooku because Dooku's dead. And I'm like,
can I just say mind blown?
Yeah, that's just sounded. Because I'm like, wow. He says, yeah, Anakin killed him. By the way, I'm on my way to go get Grievous on Utapau. And I'm like, okay,
it's all happening.
We're 45 minutes into Revenge of the Sith.
It's all happening.
And we were obviously wrong. We were speculating last week how we were hoping to see the kidnapping of the Chancellor and all this stuff. And it's like, nope, we are way past that. That
already happened.
I think you were wrong. I don't think I said that. I was talking about the canonical death of Shakti. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm never wrong except most of the time. And then Obi-Wan asked to speak to Ahsoka alone, and I had chills in this moment. I'm like, there's so many things he can say. And he tells him about Anakin's secret mission to report to the Council on the Chancellor, and the Emperor's theme is heard. To my knowledge, we have never heard that theme on the Clone Wars before. Ahsoka is aghast at this and says Anakin must not be happy because the Chancellor has been a good mentor to Anakin. It's like we were talking about last week with kids watching the show. It's like, oh, that nice old man. It's like, he can't be a bad guy. And Obi-Wan says, well, maybe she should talk to Anakin, and then says the Council isn't always right. And I was like, from him? For Obi-Wan to say that?
I was so proud of him.
I know. And I was thinking of when we were talking to James Arnold Taylor about him being the true believer and following the code and the Council. This is his inner Qui-Gon coming out. This is his everything. It's like, and you could tell, because he doesn't always, when he tells Anakin, this is the mission from the Council, he says, why are you asking me to do this? And Obi-Wan says, the Council is asking you. He's like, and you could tell in that moment, he doesn't want to ask him this.
Yeah.
He's like, this is a bad move.
Yeah. And this is honestly like, This is Obi-Wan telling Ahsoka what he wishes he could tell Anakin.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's exactly what
and he
this
says,
is.
maybe you should talk to Anakin. And I was like, oh, please. But we know that doesn't happen because one talk with them could have changed the entire course of Revenge of the Sith right now.
Yep.
So I was just, I wish. And I was like, and then they could hug holographically and get into Snips and Sky Guy. And of course, that's not going to happen. So pour one out for the hug that will never
I think
be.
you were right, unfortunately, Brian, last week when you said that moment when the two of them just kind of look at each other without a hug and just go their separate ways. I think that's the last time they're going to see each other before Ahsoka sees him again as Vader.
Yeah.
Before Rebels, and they certainly aren't hugging there, unless you count, beating the crap out of someone a hug, and in some places they do. My family, anyway. No, just kidding. Wow, that got dark. That's not true. That's not true at all. I don't know where that came from. Okay. Anyway, for the timeline established, this whole conversation and knowing what else is happening during Revenge of the Sith, we will never watch Revenge of the Sith the same way again. It was already clear, but now we know all of this is happening at the same time. And how do you do it? Do you watch this first? Do you watch that first? What do you do?
Do you pause and go back and forth between them?
Yeah, fire the cannon 3 times. More. And fire it one more time for the loss of my leg. Anyway,
I honestly
Pete
want them
Mars,
to. Is
get
it bad
outta
that
here.
is it bad that I want them to remake Revenge of the Sith now in
No,
animation?
that's
Like I
been-
want
that's
Filoni to
been-
do it.
That's been,
not at all.
Like floated a lot. I remember in the early days when people would talk about, well, how will the show end? They're like, why can't they just remake Revenge of the Sith this
Yeah,
way?
just remake
with
it.
these
It'd be amazing.
voices, especially because everyone would love to hear some of those classic lines done by Matt Lanter and Catherine Tabor, and no foul to the live actors, but what would it be like to just hearing things like James Arnold Taylor screaming, "You are the chosen one," is kind of magical.
That would be so good.
Even though, I mean, there's Ewan McGregor is amazing, as James Arnold Taylor would be the first to say. Anyway,
it hurt so good.
Yeah, it hurt. It just, oh man, the pain. Anyway, Rex informs of an attack, rather. Ahsoka says, "Tell Anakin," and Obi-Wan says, "I will." And we don't know what she's going to say. It's a great spin on the Han Leia riff. Not quite the same, but
it's not like and obviously like that's immediately where all of our minds went. I was like, I had this moment. I was like, would Ahsoka ever tell Anakin that she loves him? Like, I don't know if she actually would. I don't think she would, but like we know that she loves him. We know that without a doubt.
Yeah,
So
I mean, deep. I think they all love each other on a deep, caring for each other level. But
they're family.
Jedi are so bad at expressing it, and even Anakin, his way of expressing it just to Padme is pretty clunky.
I know.
He doesn't really know how to speak though, so I don't know if he'd be like, "Are you a child angel? Because you're like my daughter, who I love." I don't know. Where am I? Am I on the wire here? Anyway, so Maul goes. He goes with the clones, and he's asking about he's asking about Ahsoka. He took the clone Jesse alive. Jesse, who we know, we first met Jesse the clone in. Which that's an interesting nickname for a clone. I'm like, okay. And this is
I don't
Jesse
know.
and
That's
this
a cool name.
This
Jesse.
is Fives, Echo, Jesse, and this is Mike. And over here
Alex.
is Richie B. But we first met him in season 2 in The Deserter. And then he's popped up a couple more times, notably in the Umbara arc in season 4. Maul interrogates Jesse. And the grand plan, he drops things like the grand plan, the only plan that matters, the grand design. He says, even I was not aware of all of it, but I played my part. He says, I was cast aside, but I can thrive in the chaos that is to come. And we know that he does. And then he takes a moment to send Gar Saxon to shut Almec up. And I'm thinking at this moment, it's like, okay, Almec's not going to live through this episode. Who would have thought that Almec would have even I'm like, at this point, I want Almec to die more than I wanted Trench to bite it. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Really?
How is
Wow.
this person still around?
Yeah.
He's a snake.
Maul, oh man. Maul force interrogates Jesse which looks painful, which as Ahsoka, Rex, and Bo-Katan visit Almec, who is in prison again. He says Maul doesn't want to escape. For a while, Maul has been feeling this sense of dread, and we get this from Maul. Maul's kind of slowly freaking out this whole
He's
episode.
devolving. He's becoming more. I was noting that just like the way that they're playing him, he's becoming more and more like how he was found down in the trash with his spider legs.
At one point,
like he's
did you see he started growing like a little snake leg out of the side, and then the other side started another little spider leg. He's turning into a spider slowly. It's very subtle.
I was gonna say there's a snake that's just like wandering around and going like,
it's the
I'll show
same
you where
snake.
he is.
It's like, oh hi, I'm back. I'm the snake from that planet. Anyway, did you catch my show and my Type 5 on airline food? Anyway, Almec says he didn't want Kenobi here. He also wanted, and before that, he gets popped twice by Gar Saxon. He tells Ahsoka, though, he says he wanted Skywalker and then dies. I'm like, you don't get to say Skywalker and then die. Yoda gets to do that. You don't get to do that.
Poor Ahsoka. Honestly,
there's
she must be so confused. She's just now getting reunited with her master, whom she loves very much, and now all of a sudden people are talking shit about him.
Yeah, Ahsoka, more like so confused. Am I right?
Whoa.
Moving on.
Crushed it. As he says that, we get a hint of the Imperial theme after he says the name, and he's dead. Take it, Sheev Almec. You died as you live, being slippery scum. For Almec finally being dead, fire the cannon. Thank you. Now, why would Maul want Skywalker here is the question, and we will soon find out. Now, there's a great chase fight between Saxon and Bo-Katan with all the Mando tricks. There's so much Mando versus Maldo versus clone action packed in this whole episode. Just a visual feast and everything. And it's kind of, it's this feeling of dread that we feel seeing the clones in this moment because we know so many of them are about to turn. And there are moments like later they're taking Gar Saxon away. It's like, well, they're going to be friends in about 10 minutes once the clones turn. And there's all this talk of, well, once the occupation is over. I'm like, it's not going to be over. These clones are here to stay. And Gar Saxon, as we know, becomes an Imperial super commando, so he's going to get comfortable right quick. Maul comms with his syndicate leaders of his crime syndicate, telling them to go into hiding. We see someone from Black Sun. I don't think it was Prince Zizor, Matt, although I thought of you. It's just
I was gonna say it. Say it.
It's just another guy from Black Sun. We see Marg Krim of the Pikes, and we see someone else. And I didn't catch this. I will admit I did not catch this. But one of our Padawans right before the show tweeted it at me, and I was like, "Oh my god!" As we were preparing, and both of you caught it.
Yeah,
Matt
like
Caitlin,
duh.
Who was it? Who was the random white
Dryden
dude?
Voss, baby.
That's right. Dryden
Yeah,
Voss.
I
was so
took a
excited.
picture of it.
You took a
I was so
picture of
excited.
Dryden Voss.
He looks excellent.
But I was really going for.
He looks
You were
so
going for
irritated.
you were going for Zizor. Come on.
I was saying I wanted Zizor.
I'm surprised
I
you
was
guys
gonna-
like Matt's going to say that's Dash Rendar. It's like that's Dryden Voss. It's like, but you wanted it to be Zizor, didn't you? Yes, Yes, I really do.
Yeah, I did.
Anyway, I love Dryden Voss.
That was
Dryden
great.
Voss
though,
is so
having-
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and actually made me think like, let's get Solo to the animated series. I mean, let's just make it all animated. Let's just go
Make
do
it,
it.
do it animated because at this point, with the things we've heard, Solo, anything live action in that period doesn't look good. So do it animated.
Do it
Absolutely.
animated. It would be amazing. It would be an incredible show.
I'm sure. You know, Donald Glover was writing an animated series at one time. We've already talked about. He would be up for it. I'm sure. All this isn't like other animation. Also, this is Star Wars, so I'm sure all of those actors would be into it. Amelia Clarke, I'm sure. I can't imagine she wouldn't want to do something like this. And they've already established Crimson Dawn, so it's I mean, yes, there could always be a book or a comic, but it's more.
Just do it, damn it.
Yeah, it seems ripe for a series. Come on.
You know, maybe that Disney Plus series would be centered on Kira. Maybe
that's a good idea.
Amelia Clarke, the show, and it's her in Crimson Dawn. I'm here for it. And then she just burns down Coruscant with a battle droid dragon. Anyway,
there you go.
He says to Saxon, Maul says, "You once liberated me from Sidious and his apprentice," and I'm like, bingo. Where does that happen? Son of Dathomir. So there we go. Sam Witwer told us there would be a little bit of it in there, and there it is. And I love this kind of synergy. It's referencing something that happened in a comic. Come on.
Canon. Come on, do it.
Love it. Fire. And he says he once thought Dooku was an old fool, but now he sees they're one step behind. They're one and the same. He's like, Dooku and I are one and the same, one step behind. I'm like, they are the same. They're the disposable temp apprentices before Skywalker, the real deal. And we pretty much find that out. And he says he's not doing it's not what the other Mandos should be doing either. The dark side is stronger than ever. They have to grab what they can. And he says to the Mandos, he's like, you're not going to die in the sewer. He's like, if you will die as warriors. And soon we see all of the Mandalorians come flying out in force.
You know, I immediately thought when he says you will not die in the sewers, I immediately thought of the Mandalorian with all of the Mandos hiding in the sewers.
It's like funny you should say that because in a few years, they're going to be back in the sewers. It's like, is that the doom of the Mandalorian is to jetpack above the skies and then continually get dragged down to the sewers?
Yep.
Anyway, we see clones guiding Mandalorian citizens around, and they're not happy. And Bo-Katan says this occupation can't last much longer. The people will not stand for it. I will not stand for it.
Honey.
And I think here's a building block of potentially the next two episodes, at least the next one. It's once Order 66 happens, and Palpatine says, "Galactic Empire, Secure Society." The clones turn, and we're here to stay now. She's going to like it even less. So I can see that kind of playing out. And and how that will go. Like,
Good
that's
call.
Totally someplace.
So we move maybe. So we're saying that maybe we're going to move past Revenge of the Sith now. We're going to go
we are.
further into that than we ever have.
Yeah. I think we're going to. I think we're going to at least until we're going to see the Empire established. We know we're going up until I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. And again, we say it every time, but well done. But we know we're seeing that, so that's got to be the next episode because we're almost there.
Yeah.
And they go into the throne room, and who's there? Maul is right back on the throne, doing his casual sit on the throne, just like in the Lawless. I'm like, oh man, how do you dangle that robotic
spread a little bit more,
so
will ya?
casually? It's like, let me just, sorry, gets a screwdriver. Okay, yeah, that's casual. This is my casual sit. Bo-Katan rushes him, and he just deftly deflects blaster bolts and sends her back. He gives Jesse back to them, who told him everything, and a huge blast erupts from outside, and he says, one of you might want to deal with that. Bo-Katan goes to deal with that. Maldo's attack, and it's big. It keeps cutting back now between Ahsoka and Maul in the throne room, and Maldo-Mando clone action happening outside. All of it's amazing, but Maul starts in on Ahsoka, talks about her leaving the Order, the hypocrisy of the Council, and he says, we were both tools for greater powers. And again, we've already kind of talked about this in advance, but I didn't realize how much the two of them have in common, because he name drops. He's like, he knows all about her trial. He's like, they threw you out. You know, he's the wrong Sith, she's the wrong Jedi. And I didn't see this connection until they're right there.
Yeah.
Yep, it's true. And I mean, here's the thing too, all of these shots, and when the first trailer came out and when we were seeing, you know, all of these stills, the two of them across the throne room from each other and Maul reaching out, I immediately was like, it's Kylo and Rey. It's the two sides coming together, finding out that they have something in common, and then one of them reaching out to the other saying, let me help you. We can do this together. Do
you think Maul and Ahsoka could form a dyad in the Force?
Dare I say, it rhymes.
It
rhymes now. It's always rhymed.
It's the same kind of thing. And of course, when Maul is reaching out, Maul is making some very interesting, not invalid points.
Yeah.
And
it's a very Anakin thing to do. It's the Anakin special.
It
the deal
really
that he
is.
offers.
Like some not bad points.
Yeah, he says there is no justice, no law, no order, except for the one that will replace it. The time of the Jedi has passed. They cannot defeat Sidious.
Exactly. ...
But together, you and I can. And
but also, I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
No, it's just another dark side deal on the table. Anyway.
Yeah, but also, like, if Obi-Wan would have came instead of Ahsoka, would Obi-Wan have teamed with Maul? Like, would that like, you know, would that been enough?
Well, we found out really the only reason why. I mean, this is Maul adapting to the situation, because Maul's plan was bringing Kenobi here, which was exactly not part of Palpatine's plan. Palpatine wanted Anakin where he wanted him. Turns out Maul wanted Kenobi here, not just because he loves Kenobi secretly, but
because he's obsessed with him.
Yeah, because he's obsessed with Kenobi. As we find out. But because that would mean that Kenobi would bring Anakin, and he wants Anakin. He wants to kill Anakin. He's like the prized pupil. That's who I'm going to kill. In his eyes, Anakin is who he should be. He stole his life. And he's never had this personal connection to Anakin before. So I'm like, wow, that's intense.
And we all know, like, there's no way that it's Ahsoka. She's not going to go with this, you know. But you know, and we do know also, because we know what happens later, and we know what Ahsoka's story is from here on out for a while. But there's these moments where I'm like, would it be so bad? Like, if just for a little bit y'all teamed up, and then
they could have saved the galaxy. Yeah,
because she goes a little further than I would have thought, because she doesn't give him a firm no. He says, every choice you have made has led you to this moment. And then she says, I will help you, but you must answer one question. And she says,
what do you want with Anakin Skywalker?
He says,
he is the key to everything.
That's what, you know, you're talking about the one to bring balance to the Force. And Maul says, to destroy. He has long been groomed for his role as my master's new apprentice. And this is where the other shoe dropped, and I was like, wow, and Ahsoka's not having it. It's like, and that's where she loses him. It's like you play the Anakin card. Oh, it's that's why you want Anakin, so you can kill him because he's the prized pupil.
You're going to mess with my big brother.
That's impossible.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and she says, I know, Anakin, your vision is flawed. It's like, well, is she right or wrong? Because at first I'm like, no, his vision isn't flawed. He's actually correct. But then I remembered Return of the Jedi, and I'm like, actually, Ahsoka it's the Luke thing. There's still light in him. Yeah, and Padme. And
Ahsoka has the same faith in Anakin that all of the people who love Anakin have.
Yeah.
And
they know his most intimate self. They know who he is deep down, but Anakin just doesn't know who he is deep down.
Yeah, this is long-term faith too. It's like she's like, your vision is flawed. It might take a whole many years, another series, and a whole other trilogy of movies, but your vision is flawed.
We'll get there.
And we know she survives to that point, so she would learn that what happened. I just think that's kind of fascinating, them talking about all of this. The lightsabers are out, though, at this point. Enough talk. Nobody says that, but it's kind of that moment. The duel begins, and wow, it's really apparent. You can see the Ray Park mocap so clearly. Yeah. And also, Ahsoka is also motion captured by someone named Lauren Mary Kim, because she had some gestures and everything where I'm like, wow, that was very, very nuanced, and it looks just like somebody. And it turns out she was also mocapped. And what did you guys think? I mean, the duel in general it's an amazing duel, but with it just feels so much more like Maul because of the Ray Park action.
Oh yeah,
in here, as well as Ahsoka just was more alive than ever in the fighting. It blew my mind. Blow it. Mind blown.
No, and it was so exciting. I'm so glad we got it this episode, because early in the episode, you think it's going to happen, and Maul's like, not yet. And it's like,
so I thought it was going to be like even next episode. I didn't expect this to happen so soon.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is not going the way to think you will.
Yeah, and this is happening in the second of 4 episodes. So what are the next 2 going to be? If they're building the whole thing up as the big showdown between Maul and Ahsoka, and it's happened in this episode, and that's probably all we're going to get.
What's left?
And it's amazing. But also, I have to say, Ashley Eckstein has maybe the most badass line reading that she's ever delivered as Ahsoka. She says,
"You're lucky Anakin didn't show up. The way you're fighting, you wouldn't have lasted long."
Yep.
And the way she says that line, I was just I couldn't believe it. And I thought back, it's like, remember when adorable Snips came down the platform in the Clone Wars movie, and this isn't even like the end of her journey where we see her in Rebels and everything else, but the business time of her in this episode is just, oh my God. I don't think Ashley has ever had a more badass reading of a line ever.
Yeah.
The duel, as I said, was cross-cut with more clone versus Maldo action. Maul eventually gets sent out a window over the rooftops. Bo-Katan is coming in, and Saxon calms Maul for help because they're losing, and Maul pretty much says, no, and he says, die well, Mandalorian. Yep. It's like, eat it. S&D, dumb Fs. And then...
Can we talk a second for also like just the beats in this action sequence, like the explosions with the music, and it's like you hear the crash of the lightsaber, then the explosion, the Clone War. It's like, it was just a beautiful put together.
It's like, yo, dog, I hear you like the lawless. We're gonna put the lawless in your lawless. It's like, it's very, very similar to that kind of action, but just with completely nonstop. Yeah. And then Saxon is eventually, as I said, captured by clones for about another 15 minutes probably, and then he'll be free again. Ahsoka is right behind Maul, and he says, Obi-Wan was right. You are difficult to kill. And they resume their duel on these really thin rails. And I'm thinking, where's left for Jedi to duel each other? That's incredibly dangerous.
Well, this is very Duel of the Fates, when Anakin and Obi-Wan are like across the magma river,
Battle of the Heroes,
swinging at each other. Yeah.
No, it's totally that. It's like, could you find a better place? It's maybe move the location of the fight. But
like
it
a
doesn't
swimming
matter.
Pool. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So Maul disarms Ahsoka. Her sabers go flying. He gives her one last choice. Have a word much? No, join me or die. And she says never. And then she pulls a really fancy force move, back-ending, slicing the beam with Maul's own saber. Maul goes flying, but she force lifts him up just as clones appear on both sides and grapple him with wires from all sides. And at this point, Maul is losing, sensors at the ready. Maul is losing his screaming, and they're all gonna die. He's like, we're all gonna die, we're all gonna die, we're all gonna die. And they stun him, and he shuts up, and he's just dropped there in the cables, captured. Ahsoka looks up at the hole in the glass ceiling, and the end.
Yeah.
And never before in the history of this show have I ever, and I wanted the next episode immediately before, but I wanted it now.
Yeah.
Don't care how, I want it now. I was like, no! I was like, oh my God, to cut us off there. Yeah. It's like someone shut the movie off.
Ahsoka saves Maul. Like, he would have died. Like, if he had fallen, he would have died. His ass would be grass. Like, like,
and it's time for her to mow the lawn. I mean, and it's, her mission was capture, not kill.
Yeah.
And we also know they may face off again, because originally, I forget how E.K. Johnson starts it in her book, because it starts on Ahsoka on Mandalore, and she's just captured Maul. And her and Rex, I mean, spoiler alert, but her and Rex are then fabricating her death, or saying, okay, you have to leave your lightsabers here, then they'll believe that you're dead. And all that's a whole thing at the beginning of that book. So I'm wondering how far into that they're going to go. And that's canon. They have, and Ashley did the audiobook herself, so she would know all of that. As would Dave Filoni, come on. But this episode just stunned me in terms of, we're right in the middle of Revenge of the Sith now. So much have we seen in as we already said, Trailers and Arc is already done. Anything that we're going to see recreated from Revenge of the Sith that we saw in trailers has got to be next week, because we're like, we're there in the movie. I can see the next episode starting with that scene with the sense of plot to destroy the Jedi.
It's Order 66 is like 30 minutes away,
from
when Ahsoka captures Maul. Like, it's happening.
Do you guys, Caitlin Bush, do you think we'll see some side of Order 66 next week?
Absolutely. I'm absolutely terrified of it, because Ahsoka is now surrounded by clones, and she is with her men, and we are very close to Order 66, and I'm really scared.
And but we know that Rex, and this is the thing, how we find out when we see the turn, how we see Rex, how Rex has dealt with it.
Yeah.
That's another angle that I can't wait to see play out.
Yeah.
That would tie back, to season 6 of this show. Thoughts on that or anything else, Matt Romano?
Man, I'm just excited to see, I feel like now we're entering the connective tissue episodes. It's this might have been the unofficial end of the Clone Wars arc. And now these next 2 episodes are okay, we're going to tie Revenge of the Sith. We're going to tie Rebels. I want to see, you obviously want to see Order 66. You want to see what happens with Rex and the clones, how they get their chips out, how they defy the Order, where they go. And then also, there's been speculation about Kanan from Rebels, being a Padawan in that scene, in the mission briefing scene. Maybe we get to see how his master's killed and how he escapes, because that's a huge thing in Rebels. He carries a lot of weight from abandoning his master in Order 66.
And again, it's interesting because that's something we see in the Kanan comic. We see that the exact scene of Depa Billaba being killed and his escape from those clones, and then being hunted down by those clones for a sizable amount of time. And so I'm wondering if we see that,
even just a glimpse,
because that's a really good comic. If listeners, viewers want to know about that the Kanan miniseries in 2 chunks. The first part of it really goes into a lot of detail about that. So
I wonder if we're going to see any more animation of Revenge of the Sith. That's what I wonder. I know that we have I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi and all of that. Some of the stuff that we've seen in the trailers, but I want to see more.
Yeah, I want to see more Jedi chaos in Order 66.
I want to see like we've talked about before. I'd love to see some of the Jedi it's not like I want to see Jedi get killed, because I don't. And Order 66 is hard to watch, but we could watch Ki-Adi-Mundi just die like 5 times. It's like, well, let's show it from another angle. There he goes down again.
Pew, pew, he's down.
But like as I said before, a Jedi like Terra Sinube, like how does he go down? He's only on this show. How does slithery, useless Oppo Rancisis, like, how does he go?
Maybe some returning to the Jedi Temple and getting caught in that trap. You know, the signal that Obi-Wan and Yoda go to disable, you know?
We see a little bit of Sindralig and Anakin fighting in the Hollow and Revenge of the Sith, and they do have a Sindralig asset, we know from season 6. That is a duel that I would love to see. If they actually show us, you want a duel like... How is Anakin going to beat him? I mean, because he's the one who teaches everybody lightsaber technique. That would be insane. Anyway, I'm going to assume this was another Caitlin Screams just like for a half hour. Because I pretty much was.
Yeah. The entire time. I like several times, so many times that I probably should have written them down, but I didn't. I just felt it in the moment, you know?
Yeah, this was hard, like, keeping notes for this because you just wanted to watch it and just play out and just see the action just wash over you. Somalia pairing for this week, Brothers and Revenge from season 4 of the Clone Wars at the end, to get the Maul and Savage, to get some of that Maul foreshadowing. So it's Savage. One viewer pointed out it's like the pairing for last week should have been the Clone Wars movie. I'm saving it. So you're not wrong, even though because the parallels were insane last week between that and the movie, as well as the episode Twilight of the Apprentice on Rebels. But I am saving it. And that's going to do it for our discussion of this episode of Star Wars, The Clone Wars. But join us next week. In the meantime, of course, you can find our full episode where we discuss all kinds of other news and Prince Zizor and all
bits.
Kinds of great stuff, bits, so many bits aplenty. The full version can be found on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And until then, we'll see you next week. This is Jabba the Pod. To subscribe, click here. For more videos, click here. And for the full version of this episode with so much more tomfoolery, you can find Jabba the Pod on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you might get your podcasts.